When it came time to find someone to play Donald J. Trump in mock debates with Hillary Clinton, the campaign turned to longtime Clinton aide Philippe Reines, who was, well, legendary among reporters for a kind of Trumpian bluster, but who nevertheless had a pretty unusual task, which included trying to calculate how candidate Trump might behave on stage with Hillary Clinton.
Ladies and gentlemen, who make your party candidate for president, Hillary Robinson and Donald J. Trump?
It caused laugh then on September 24th, 2016. But it was another matter when Clinton was actually on stage with Trump during that second presidential debate on October 9th, just days after the Access Hollywood tape was released.
So in my debate prep, we practiced this. The young man playing Trump would stalk me. And I practiced keeping my composure. I practiced not getting rattled. And so while I'm answering questions, my mind is going, okay, do I keep my composure? Do I act like a president?
What he said was extremely unwise.
Or do I wheel around and say, get out of my space, back up, you creep?
Advisor to Secretary Hillary Clinton, Philippe Reines, who played Donald Trump in dozens of mock debates, joins me now. Philippe, it's interesting to me to watch every bit of the complexity and polarization around Hillary Clinton rise back up the moment that she has a book. Is this basically the kind of expectation you had for the reception of the book?
Well, it's unfortunately more than when she has a book. It's pretty much all the time. It was throughout her 2007 and 2008 campaign. It was throughout last year. She engenders very strong feelings on both sides. And it crops up pretty often.
What do you think? What do you understand as the answer to the question the book poses? What happened?
Well, I think the book could easily have been called "What's Happening and What Will Happen." I think if we could pick one thing to change in hindsight, it would be Jim Comey. Not simply what he did in the final weeks of the campaign, but what he did as far back as July. He basically got up and gave a press conference where he spent 10 minutes saying that she is the most terrible, innocent person of all time. That was very much out of bounds, and that became something that Trump and the Republicans repeated over and over again. What he did later was just an extension of that. He was very naive, and he exceeded his authority as FBI director, and as we've now learned, he intentionally cut out the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General.
There's a line in the book about Clinton's, the secretary's sort of contention or her understanding of the degree to which there might have been collusion between Trump and the Russians. She says there certainly was communication, there certainly was an understanding of some sort. When asked does she believe there was collusion, I'm convinced of it, she said, though she stopped short of repeating that explosive word. Do you feel the same way? And was that the feeling during the campaign?
Well, it's not just a feeling during the campaign. We at multiple times said as much, and so did our government. If you recall, 2 days before the debate that you were just referencing, it wasn't just the Access Hollywood breakthrough. It was also that the intelligence community said that the Russians were screwing around with our elections. We, on multiple occasions, tried to make very clear, including Secretary Clinton herself, when she said that he was a puppet during that infamous moment where he said, I'm not a puppet.
You're the puppet.
You're the puppet. You're the puppet. And I think in hindsight, we knew of what we spoke, and every day since then has gotten harder and harder to look past the real likelihood that they were at the very least coordinating with the Russians or winking and nodding and giving them a green light to intrude in our elections, which is an incredibly serious matter.
What do you say to people that, there has been sort of stories written about people within Democratic circles or within the circles of politics broadly in the sort of Democratic Party center-left coalition that just say, oh, God, I don't want to relive, for a variety of reasons, partly, I think, kind of emotional trauma that people went through. But I don't want to relive this campaign. Why do we have to relive this?
Well, I would say a few things. First, I would say I don't want to live through the Trump presidency, but here it is, and I think we all have to live with disappointment. Two, I would say that people have been saying that about Hillary Clinton for a long time. I think most recently they were saying that after she lost the 2008 primaries to President Obama. And I'm glad she didn't. And I think millions and millions, and to be specific, at least 65 million Americans were very glad that she didn't. She went on to become Secretary of State and representing America abroad. She's continued her life work. Lastly, I think it's naive for anyone to think that what happened cannot happen again. And anyone who does not take seriously what happened last year and what continues to happen will be the victim of it next year. And that seems exactly what President Trump is doing. He's not taking it seriously because he benefited from it. I can tell you without a doubt that if Hillary Clinton had won and people had said, well, Vladimir Putin might have helped, she the next day would have said, this is not acceptable. You will pay the price for it.
All right. Philippe Reines, thank you for making time tonight.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.